Welcome to the artist-led tour video of Katherine Boyer's solo exhibition, How the Sky Carries the Sun, currently at the Art Gallery of Regina. The Art Gallery of Regina has partnered with Sâkêwêwak Artists Collective's Storytellers Festival to share Katherine's insightful art practice with you. I'm Sandy Moore, curator of exhibitions and programming at the Art Gallery of Regina. Holly Aubuchon, Administrative Director of Sâkêwêwak Artist Collective, will share a little about her organization, Storytellers Festival, and the partnership between Sâkêwêwak and the Art Gallery of Regina.
Hi, I'm Holly Aubuchon. Before we begin, I'd like to make a land acknowledgement and say that we're situated on the Treaty 4 land. These are the territories of the Sâkêwêwak, Anishinaabe, Dakota, Lakota, and Nakota, as well as the homeland of the Metis. Today, these lands continue to be used by many diverse people from far and wide, and so I encourage all to reflect and consider the harm or the harm from displacement of these Indigenous peoples groups who originate from this land. Acknowledgements are to become more than just an opening statement before a gathering or an event. I believe that they're a call to action. So how can you support or care for the Indigenous people in your workplaces, social settings, or in the public? And my challenge, as well as we acknowledge our land, is to consider writing a letter to the city or the government about actions towards the TRC, or to write to someone who you think or feel you need to thank. We are really excited to gather here virtually with the Art Gallery of Regina in partnership for Sâkêwêwak Storytellers Festival. Storytellers is an annual festival that runs every February in correlation with Indigenous Storytellers Month. We are a multidisciplinary festival offering a wide range of storytelling, such as dance, comedy, film, poetry, traditional storytelling, visual arts, and a lot more. With the pandemic in mind, while planning for this 2022 Storytellers Festival, we've decided to split the festival into two parts this year. So happening right now is Storytellers 1.0, and it will be all our online programming available during the typical festival time. And we have transitioned our in-person programming dates to June 23rd, 24th, 25th, and 26th, called Storytellers 2.0. So you can follow our Facebook and our Instagram for updates and special announcements for those events. And we also we are also gratefully acknowledging the support of the Canada Council for the Arts, Sask Arts, Sask Culture, and Sask Lotteries. And with that, I'll pass it back to you, Sandy.
Thanks, Holly. Well, I want to thank you for joining me here and everyone watching this video for joining us to celebrate online Katherine Boyer's exhibition, How the Sky Carries the Sun. In the artworks that comprise this exhibition, we see Katherine's deep research that she processes through arduous and detailed hand making. Each knot, stitch, timber joint, and plant forms a tactile conduit between the body, history, materials, and lived experience. While Katherine poses the question rooted in phenomenology, am I the sky or am I the sun? Observing her diligent work and novel process over the past week and indeed the past 2 years, for myself, I must conclude she is the sun. She is bright, she is warm, she has gravity. Katherine's achievements are numerous and impressive. Many of you are excited to see her work back in Regina, where she completed her Bachelor of Fine Arts and worked at the First Nations University Art Gallery before completing a Master of Fine Arts in Winnipeg and accepting a tenure-track position at the University of Manitoba's School of Art. Katherine has exhibited her work in public and commercial galleries across Canada since 2016. She is co-editor alongside Judy Anderson and Carmen Robertson of a forthcoming book published by the University of Manitoba Press on beading in the prairies. Katherine is extremely proud to advocate for the rights of artists as CARFAC Manitoba Chair. And guided by the rhythm of the seasons, she has created entirely new work for her exhibition at the Art Gallery of Regina. I know that you are thrilled to gather online to celebrate Katherine's solo exhibition. The Art Gallery of Regina thanks Sâkêwêwak Artist Collective's Storyteller Festival for co-presenting this online tour of How the Sky Carries the Sun by the artist herself, Katherine Boyer. The video will be launched in conjunction with the start of Storytellers Festival on Thursday, February 17th, and will be available to view online throughout the exhibition run. I encourage you to visit the exhibition in person and to read Katherine's thoughtful artist statement posted in the northwest corner of the gallery. I also want to congratulate Katherine on her stunning achievement in this exhibition. Before I invite her to virtually guide you through How the Sky Carries the Sun, I would like to thank Saskatchewan Deaf and Hard of Hearing Services for providing ASL interpretation for Katherine's artist-led exhibition tour. I also want to recognize the support of SaskArts and the City of Regina. And now I invite you to enjoy Katherine Boyer's online exhibition tour of How the Sky Carries the Sun.
Okay, thank you very much, Sandy. And I also wanted to start off with my own land acknowledgement, because as much as Regina and Saskatchewan are deep homes for me, I am currently living in Winnipeg, Treaty 1 territory, the original lands of the Anishinaabe, the Cree, Cree, Dakota, and Dene people, and of course the homeland of the Metis Nation. So I also want to incorporate into this acknowledgement the communities that surround Shoal Lake, specifically where Winnipeg gets our drinking water, and whom face water boil advisories and all other sorts of difficulties due to that history. So wanted to incorporate that as maybe part of what Holly was saying about calls to action and calls to consider our actions every day. So I'm going to start by listing a laundry list of people I am thankful to have supported me and inspired me and worked with me and helped me along the way. Always beginning with Judy Anderson, who has definitely changed the trajectory of my life. And I'm ever grateful for her for having her led my hands to beads. And then also Carmen Robertson, who continues to be a role model and a definite source of inspiration. And then my dearest close friend, Francesca Hubert-Spence, who's been on the other end of so many phone calls about ideas and who has helped to articulate a lot of what I couldn't see or couldn't find the words for. I also want to thank our Indigenous Scholar in Residence group through the Manitoba Museum. We were meeting weekly for about a year, and the conversations from those weekly meetings have definitely impacted the work. And as Sandy mentioned, had a beginning place 2 years ago, so a completely different spot to where I landed. So that environment has definitely played a part in this work. and specifically Maureen Matthews, who's a total fierce ally within the museum system, whose work I'm ever grateful for. And then Janine Crouchy, who's also part of that group, who held my hand at so many stages of this, of the vest specifically. The final steps to putting it together were made so much easier because she was helping me. And maybe obviously my family. I push as hard as I do to represent our family and our stories and our worldview respectfully. And I make what I make large in part for them, for all of us. And I also want to really thank Sandy for your flexibility and understanding throughout a long, winding road to get this work up, as well as Jess and the rest of the Neil Balkwell Center staff for hosting me during the installation of this piece, this body of work, rather. And there's a huge other list of people who I can't quite name at this very moment, but they are part of this as well. So the tricky part is always where to start. I took this picture very, very cold day, cold morning, in fact, where there was this moment where it really felt like the sky or the clouds was cushioning the rising sun, or maybe like throwing it up into the air. Some type of action was suggested by these components coming together. And so it has partnered along with this exhibition as some type of promotional image. But the other place that I really want to start is actually here, and it's actually outside. I was invited to program the city flagpole. And I was excited about the opportunity and really wanted to take flags, to take the idea of a flag, to take an expected idea of a flag and change it and try something new, but to think about what they represent and how they function. And I don't know if my approach would be different now that we're seeing flags used in alarming ways all over Canada, but perhaps it would be the same. I was really keen to make a signal that this exhibition was taking place within a craft framework. And so I started with a totally different type of flag, pennant flags, or they're also called bunting. And then atop the flagpole, I have a extremely large pom-pom. And while these are all typically of a kind of cutesy, craftsy decorating parties, what the work is wanting to bring forward is this sort of a hello from yesterday. So the image on the flags are photograph of the sky from that exact location back in September, so a number of months before the show was installed. And to me, craft has this incredible way of time traveling. It brings the past forward, especially how and where I work with craft objects. As you can see in the video here, the wind is a strong element. It activates the flags, it moves them, it shifts them, it changes them. Uh, and I am ever inspired by the words of Yazem Morgan. And those words echoed in my head from their book Knit to Sanak. The prairie wind is gay AF. And I just wanted to read a quote. The prairie wind propels the queer body forward in a way shared among queer kin who perpetually followed those sparkling lights on the landscape, that queer lust for the city, that home in the horizon, and that desire for queer possibility. It's that forward momentum that's drawn me to really consider the present moment throughout COVID lockdown, the number of them. It's where I started looking at the sky, looking to the sky for change, but also looking to the sky for evidence of movement, of change. And it was there in the shifting clouds and the wind, that which propels them. So another place that I want to start and consider in my work, as I describe my work, is that of orientation. It's an important thing to know where we are and how we're positioned, and how people see us, and is a big component of phenomenology, and specifically queer phenomenology, as Sarah Ahmed writes about. And so from this, I want to position myself, both part of many types of communities, the Metis community, that of white settler, also queer community, crafters, woodworkers, and it's this kind of confluence of many groups and many perspectives and many ways of being that I am coming to this work from. The other interesting thing about orientation and the wind is that the wind does tell us what's coming and what's going. Which way the wind is blowing is a real question based on things in the environment, blowing trees, the way the snow blows, bowing grasses. It's also an idiom about getting a sense of things before taking action, to sort of behold history taking shape and to anticipate the direction it might lead, to really consider the future and what's going to impact it. So all of this leads inside the gallery. So this is a gallery view of a handful of works, and I'm going to fluctuate sort of between gallery view and then focus in on select pieces. So the first piece I would like to talk about is this work called Cyan Blue Eclipse. So this was a process undertaken during the summer of last year. I was interested in finding a way that I really naturally related to plant life and a type of knowledge cycle around plant life. And having grown up with a garden for my entire life, and still today, I felt like that was the place to start, and especially still living in an urban environment. It was the place that I had access to plant knowledge. And that plant knowledge was vegetables. It was also dye plants, which is another project not part of the show. But so the work the imagery represented here are all plants that were part of that growing season and include a lot of lessons that I had gathered, a lot of super failures, a lot of successes, a lot of things to do next time. And they, within the space, kind of act more as windows than flags. And I have them sort of after the flag images to both make a comparison, but also a distinction in the way that they are installed. It's all part of the same, I guess, story of how I got into developing this cloud practice or cloud concepts. But one of the incredible things about the process of cyanotype is an active collaboration with the sun. It's very environmentally reactive, and you must be aware of the time of day, the type of sun, whether it's too hot or too many clouds. It had stalled the progress more than once with rain, but this was all part of a more environmentally conscious approach to art making that I am still consistently interested in working with, a manner of working. So I've got some detail shots here just to point out some specifics. So this last year I was able to plant a prairie rose bush, which we normally see in the wild, a very kind of wild flower, but I was excited that Home Depot was having a sale and picked up some rose bushes for my own backyard, and now have the opportunity to watch this plant, this incredible plant that is part of so much Métis material culture, watch it full seasons and watch it change, and be able to care for it. And the image to the right is a close-up of the crows. The last summer, there was an enormous, alarming amount of crows that seemed to linger a lot longer than usual. And it was noteworthy enough to kind of incorporate into this, because these cycles are not independent of other factors, right? Of animals, of bugs, of weather, of neighborhood kids, of so many factors. So I wanted to bring in other components as well. And further to the right are some of the dye plants that I was working with. In the center, a plant called woad, which creates this quite a lovely blue. And then a plant that I harvested ditch side called goldenrod, which creates a beautiful golden yellow, you could assume. And so this in part to document a moment of knowledge gain, but also a moment of future growth and future knowledge to be gained as well. The symmetry of these works are making direct reference to ways that beading patterns would be folded, cut, saved, transferred, moved, as you would kind of cut out a snowflake, for example. These patterns were folded twice, and then the design, I guess the quarter of the design cut, and then unfolded to reveal the symmetrical shapes. Okay. So part of my practice that I am more and more actively considering are the ways in which my life feels kind of ever dueling, the parts of me that feel like they're ever dueling, specifically my a seemingly, as I put, a seemingly dichotomous identities such as Metis and settlerhood, that these two often feel at odds, having grown up situated in a middle class Regina neighborhood, and then also this reconnection to a cultural way later in life. And so I'm typically working with pairs of things, and as an unconscious urge, I feel like this is part and parcel why. Things that pair and things that shape and form and influence and affect one another is the goal. And so you can see this work. It's just a lovely moment that's part of, I'll talk about these crates a bit later, but that these kind of forces are often butting up against one another in conflicting ways. Excuse me. So this piece is titled "The Harder I Work, the Less I Exist, the More I Become the Work," the closed line. So this work is much about repetition. It's a way that I like to work. It's a way that I'm compelled to work for whatever reason. Actually, no, I do know the reason. I'm going to tell you. It's this compulsive need to always be working on something and producing in a way to validate my presence here and to demonstrate my kind of worthiness to be part of this critical creative stage. I mean, we've had certainly a paradigm shift when it comes to labor, to capitalism, and those discussions are certainly affecting the way I look at hyper productivity. And so I'll just point out the materials here. Going to the next slide. So the material on the right is a clothesline. Again, just from, I think I got this from Canadian Tire. And the process to create this kind of gnarled ball is just knotting. It's just knotting. So very like actively taking away its function, removing any hope that it might hold clothes or be functional in any other way than to be part of this conversation around labor. The image on the left, or sorry, the material on the left is a willow root. And this root is from my backyard. It's from a tree that had to be removed, unfortunately, but in place, put a fence for my backyard. And so I had hung on to this root for 3 years now, and I guess not knowing what it would become. But so yeah, these materials shared a kind of strange dissonance, as well as a very strange like shared essence. And so to me, they so well represent these sides of me that are not really sides. They share all the same language, all the same methods, all the same. The difference is material, truly, almost truly. And so this labor of repetition has so many places in my work. It connects me to time spent, connects me to beading practice, which is well documented to take a long time. It's also about habits. What we practice is who we are, is what we are. And a habit is that way to change. It's also a way to establish. It's also a way to form ourselves. It's also just genuinely how I like to work, because I get lost in the momentum, and the motion of my actions start to blend together. And it's Sherry Farrell-Racette has kind of helped define this idea of a flow state, especially when it comes to beading, where hours can just kind of disappear, and they definitely do. But more than that, the kind of question around where do I go during this flow state, and where is my body, where is my mind, where are my thoughts? And the best answer to these questions is that I, in some way, kind of cease to exist and become the work, or the flow state of repetition or repetitive actions replaces awareness with intuition and instincts, but ironically kind of come out of hard work. And so there's a quote of Sarah Ahmed, again, to kind of help articulate this. And it goes like this. The labor of such repetition disappears through labor. If we work hard at something, then it seems effortless. This paradox, with effort, it becomes effortless, is precisely what makes history disappear in the moment of its enactment. The repetition of the work is what makes the work disappear. So the ease of the flow state is an ease because of work. And another way to think about repetition is in respect to the body. What shape my body takes while working repetitively is a position that is both responding to material, process, and time. My positioning will always be this kind of path of least resistance based on what needs to be accomplished, based on the materials and how long it takes. So these three elements, materials, process, time, are all cornerstones in my work and routinely represented here. Oh, I'm gonna go to the next slide. Sorry, okay, great, cool, okay. Okay, so here we're kind of shifting our way around the gallery and moving into this work, Queer Hometown Horizon, made out of Mason's line and the OSB crate. So just to start with the horizon line, zoom in. And so Mason's line is this material that was used for urban, what's that called? This Mason's line, this material is called Mason's line. It is a material used for landscaping, bricklaying, and its goal is to create straight, flat lines. And what I have effectively done with the material, which comes on a spool, is created this squiggly rug hooked horizon line that hugs the top of the neighborhood that I grew up in Regina. And so this line just visually follows the shapes of the trees and the houses, including the one I grew up in. And so to counter this kind of material urge to straighten and to make clear and to align, I instead am always curious to think and reflect on growing up again in a middle class neighborhood and being young, being queer, not completely understanding what that could mean, and reflecting on memories that can take a different shape as we've gotten older, and as we can now look back with more information about ourselves. And so the queerness of this horizon line is that it follows a different horizon altogether, and in referencing again a horizon, which is typically represented as this foreground, or sorry, as this distant point of eventual flatness, that maybe a queer horizon is not that way. It does not look that way. Is not as straightforward as perhaps straightness is represented in heteronormativity. And so these crates that are part of the exhibition are also part of a material discussion and visual hang on, sorry, I'm looking for another word. Like visual aesthetic is the word I'm looking for, not visual. Okay, sorry, I'll kind of start that section again. So these crates that are part of the exhibition are all an effort to kind of introduce this type of aesthetic that I'm incredibly interested in, that I feel is very intuitive to many of my communities, specifically to a queer aesthetic as well as a Métis aesthetic, and that these types of visual languages have a way of communicating functionality that I also feel so intuitively in my own life, and I seek to kind of represent in my art practice. And so these crates carried all the work in the show to the show, and are part of the display mechanisms. They're already also part of the journey, the story, and they support the work in a way that's essential, especially from the clothesline pair as a type of plinth. In this case, this material, the mason's line, visually needed an anchor, but more than that, it becomes furniture. It becomes seating in a way. It also carries a lot of the same types of material language of houses, of where we might live. This OSB board is so common in construction, and 2x4 the same. And so all of these materials, part of this exhibition, is bringing together functionality. It's bringing together the home. It's bringing together construction. It's bringing together the way that my dad and I work, I think, best on projects that are have construction in mind, and to just fill in a couple of blanks for some. My dad is a carpenter of over 50 years and built the house that I grew up in, built a lot of the furnishings, and has always kind of imbued our lives with this possibility of building our world. And in that same way, building our world can also extend into a queer kind of realization as well. Where the world that we have landed in may not be made for us in how we need it to be. So more often than not, we fill in the gaps and we make what we need in order to live. All right, so the sky vest is a large installation composed of seed beads on smoked moose hide with 2x4s as the supporting armature, and surrounding it are some soft boxes. This vest is the cumulative work of over a year, a little bit over a year, better part of a year. And on it is a range of skies that are, sorry, let me do that again. On the vest are a range of skies of places that have formed who I am. These places are deeply meaningful to me. Sorry. Ooh. Holy God. Oh. So these places are deeply meaningful to me in a range of ways. I'll show some close-ups here. From my own home here in Winnipeg, which is depicted on the left side, to whoa, sorry, wow. So from my home in Winnipeg, depicted on the image on the left, to the Souris Valley, which is depicted on the back, to let's go back for a second, to the right hand side is where my mom's ashes are spread. Oh my God. Oh, Jesus. Okay. I can get through this. Oh my God. So the sky on this side of the vest is where my mom's ashes are spread, and on the pockets, the one of the skies is above where my dad currently lives, and on the other pocket is a place called Beaudry Park, which has proven to be an incredible place that I turn to quite regularly during the pandemic. The floral design that's along the collar is the seasons represented in the single flower. The main central flower, the 5-petal flower, fluctuates and changes over the seasons, from summer, sure, we can start anywhere from the summer into the fall, into a dormant period in the winter, and then resurges in the springtime. And so this cycle is repeated around the entire collar, and acknowledges that kind of year-long work that's apparent in a lot of the pieces. And you can see opposite the work, or the vest rather, much of seasonal work had to do with that garden. And so the seasons within this entire exhibition have been an incredibly large factor. The sky, as the title itself would indicate, but also the sun in so many ways that gives light to the sky, to the clouds, to plants, and of course gives us life. So I know there's one more close up of pocket. Just some details that I want to point out have to do with this twisted fringe. It's a technique of finishing fringe um, that's that adds, I think, as Judy has put it once before, a kind of specialness to something that's otherwise just a finishing touch. It adds a specialness to a finishing touch, and I've kind of taken that that idea of fine detail work to in every part of this work. Everything I have touched, every component has been handled, manipulated. It is my body in so many ways, and definitely represents that that my presence within the exhibition, my presence within beading, within this work. If it fits my body, it is, when worn, quite stiff. And to me, as I was kind of finishing it and trying it on and adjusting and finishing, it needs to be worn as well as displayed. And I mean, I was finishing it down to the final minute, and so it's the future of this vest is to be worn, is to kind of be further shaped to my body through use and through wearing. So this is the end of my second slide show. So I just want to talk a little bit about the armature. The armature is two sets of roof trusses, which, again, part of the construction language that's been part of my life and part of my interests. They're kind of inverted, which is, one could say, a very kind of queer thing to do with them, but more importantly, their role is to support this sky vest, and kind of propel it into space. And the other essential role of these trusses is to create these sort of intersecting angles that are, as much about the way my identities intersect and shape and change as one kind of meets the other. And it's also it was like incredibly wonderful to watch people kind of dive under the vest. To me, there's a lot of playfulness in that. It's a playful action to kind of take that route, and so many people did, and I'm not sad about it. There's more than one way to kind of enter behind that space. You can go around, you can go under, typically. And again, to me, that's really comes back to multiple perspectives and dualities and multiple entry points to viewing something or to experiencing something. So we'll just advance. So these pieces are, again, kind of scattered at the base of the sky vest installation. They are titled Heavy Blue. They're made of this blue leather fabric. They are part of a kind of quilting practice, craft quilting practice. But they are just more parts of myself that are that feel kind of contradictory at times. And just speaking from a very personal perspective, the times when I can be soft and gentle are, I can also be, I can also push, and I can also be quite strong, right? And I think these types of dualities obviously exist within all of us. But there is always within this show this kind of question of mobility and of moving and kind of reestablishing and almost transplanting. Sorry. Oops, ouch. So this is part of a collective Métis history of needing to move, rehome, including my own family's journey from the Winnipeg area, the Red River area, down to North Dakota, and then ultimately back up to the Saskatchewan and the Souris Valley. And so, can I do a change? So, as you can see, behind the sky vest installation is this luminescent sculptural work. I'll shift again. Oh, and here's another perspective. Sorry, of the same thing. Okay, great. Oh yeah, no, we'll go next. Sorry, we'll go to the next one, Sandy. Perfect, okay. So I wanted to show this map that I have been working from for a long time now. It's this map that describes the Souris River Valley Métis settlement. And it's got incredible didactic information. Along the bottom is sort of all of the people that live there. And along this side, the left-hand side, is plant animal life of the region. And on the near the center there is also information of kind of where people were coming from. So it just was it's this incredible document of invaluable knowledge about the area that my family came from, North Dakota, and landed. Can you do the next slide? They landed there. So this is a close up. Along with other members of their family. I'm highlighting just my most immediate family, but along the entire river was extended family. And so this map and this information has been what I've kind of used for a lot of my work. And I'll go to the next one. And is the kind of fundamental form of this work. And so this grid that you see before you is that close-up square that we just had up on the screen. It's the close-up of that section of homes and of life. So I had kind of divided the space as a like settler farming urge is ought to do, but to also view the kind of layered information that was part of the knowledge represented in that map, the like plants and the animals and the experiences, and I have never had the opportunity to visit this place as a place that could look like that map. That map, I I don't know exactly the date that it was made, but the area was dammed and flooded. And so it is now, the section where my family lives all underwater. And so the only places and moments I could return to it was to return to water. And so I've always been really interested in all of these stories about this place that I can't go, and how they actually form so much of my own thinking about that place. And so can we do a quick close up? Or sorry, next slide. That's what I mean. And so within these light boxes are all the houses, kind of as spaced as that map is. And the animals are kind of within the frame as well. These light boxes are a kind of tribute to the winter sky, and one that's just so common in the prairies, and which was, part of today's skyline. That these sundogs are just so part of how we understand a winter sky. And so all of these stories are somehow connected to winter, and that the sundogs are somehow conceptually holding together all of these memories for me and for my family, as though they would be herding them and keeping them all contained within that center grid space. Can we go back? Just that view, yeah. So the two panels on the far sides are have a holographic film, which means if you are in motion, if you're moving around them, they have this kind of rainbow effect, as is how sundogs look in the sky. And the material of this entire installation is, again, partly borrowing from construction, partly borrowing from home construction. For example, Tyvek, the material is just what houses are wrapped in. It has, when illuminated, this kind of incredible fiber quality that just looked so much like blowing snow or track lines or routes, or I mean, they just had so many visual comparatives that I was thrilled to incorporate it. Go to the next slide again. So the work is leaning. It's just part of another type of, I guess, strange functionality or nod to home centers, to Home Depot, to Canadian Tire, where all of these materials are located, and they've all kind of come into this exhibition just as an honest material, and through that they've supported a lot of the textile and craft work that's also part of the show, as like supporting elements. And so to the exhibition title, the How the Sky Carries the Sun, they are linked. They are inseparable. They are one and the same, because they are part of the same world. And so these dualities that I feel I inhabit is, is a way that I want to kind of keep moving forward in my work. And is there another image, Sandy, or no? I can't quite recall. No, okay. And right, so just, I guess, in conclusion, that that these components that seem distinct and seem separate and seem too different to be together are in fact one and the same. They are in fact essential to the wholeness of the works themselves. And that's how the sky carries the sun. Perfect.
Thanks, Katherine. I have spent so much time looking at this exhibition, thinking about this exhibition, and it was so generous of you to share so much about what inspired your work and the process of making it, all of the ideas. I learned so much, so it was really wonderful. And I just really appreciate the vulnerability, both that is inherent in the work, but also for you to speak about it.
Thank you. Thank you for giving me the platform to speak about it. And cry about it or whatever.
Really amazing. Yeah, I don't know if Holly, did you have anything did you have questions for Katherine or anything you wanted to add, or should we?
Well, one thing that I was really thinking about, and appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing and crying a little, was just thinking about the beaded vest, and it's also legacy of your identity and life for literally ever, unless it goes somewhere, and so I don't know what would happen and wouldn't wish for anything like that, but I was reflecting on also your acknowledgements in the beginning for people who have influenced you and how much that piece is an influence piece in my perspective. One comment even visually is with Judy Anderson being your teacher, I believe at first, that style of beading where you did all the shape work, that's something I've seen in Judy's work often. And so seeing that parallel and relationship building and your history of not having beaded work and things like that, I can only imagine, in addition to the labor that we see and that you've experienced, the amount of storytelling that this piece will carry and carries now. And also that you've sort of in one, displayed yourself as this, I don't know how to explain it, but I would imagine if you were in the vest in the moment it was being hung would be finally, here's something.
I had one thought of it being too like Titanic-y, Rose and what's his name?
I didn't get Titanic thoughts at all. But I think it in terms of the gesture, but
yeah.
I think too, to encourage visitors while you look at the piece, if you're in Regina, to also consider all of the traditional practices that you've put into that piece, in the beads themselves, things like that, the stories and the landmarking you're putting of how you said with your mom and your dad. I want to know every single detail. I'm sure there's it's a huge list, and it'll probably grow too. So I guess that was a comment I wanted to make. And in your emotions and at my eyes are watery right now. For some reason, it hasn't moved past.
Oh,
Really cry, but
yeah.
it's really meaningful and is, yeah, jaw-dropping.
Thank you. Thank you. Um, yeah, I'm definitely like emotional about it because it's you know, like I think so rarely for a lot of reasons, but one being so rarely we have these um projects that kind of span such long periods of time that really feel like monumental
Yeah.
things when they're done. And I mean, this is the certainly like the longest piece that I've ever worked on. And
Mhm.
it's like 1 year is also nothing. Like there are pieces out there, people who are working for 5+ years on on work. And um but on top of that, there's like people who where it takes a community, right? And that's so
Mhm.
often how these monumental beading garments, regalia, everything is comes together, right? Is by the work of a lot of people collectively. And so, in one sense, while I did work on this on my own, I was also so not alone. um, and definitely had like that's definitely why it's really emotional. It's because it's like um I just owe so much to so many. And
Mhm.
it so represents me. It's like I don't know that I've made a work that is so
Wow.
singularly me. um and my friend Fran mentioned this when I'm struggling to be so overtly autobiographical, and she like rightly so gave me the like don't you dare, because like it's totally fine to make work that's autobiographical. And for some reason I have internalized this idea that we must like make something other than ourselves and put that out there, while like just us, like our autobiography is also incredible sometimes. So worthy of art making for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that's true. I had somebody ask me, why was it important for the Art Gallery of Regina to be showing your work? And, part of my response was that it's important for us to share these personal stories that you as an artist are sharing with people, um, but that everyone finds their own points of reference. They see echoes of their own experiences, their own connection to land, family, traditions, a complex and multifaceted identity, to unravel that. And everything in your work is so deliberate. And you mentioned, the sky vest is such an important piece. And not only every material and every skyscape that you've meticulously beaded, but everything in the exhibition has this intimacy built up over time, where a year or a year and a half or 2 years, you're literally touching with your hand for hours, probably every day, everything in that exhibition. So it's, especially the vest really is you. It's meticulously fitted to your body. And Holly's observation, it really struck me that the inverted roof trusses that, as you said, Catherine, kind of lift the vest up into the sky so that it becomes the sky. That's also stands in for your body, that it's so powerful. Something as kind of fragile as a piece of clothing, and yet it's something that really is protective.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's like it's just so rich.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you both. I couldn't have said it better. uh,
Well, Katherine, I want to thank you for narrating us through the exhibition. Of course, we would love for people to see the exhibition in person at the Art Gallery of Regina. We're free admission, open 7 days a week. And of course, if you don't want to come indoors, you can see Katherine's piece, Hello from Yesterday, on our flagpole in the Les Sherman Park outside our building. Is there any kind of invitation you would like to put out to either online viewers of the exhibition or anyone who intends to see the exhibition in person, Katherine?
Nothing's coming to mind. Not immediately. I'm tired.
I mean, as we talked about, your work is a labor, but also what an emotional labor to talk about this work that has been such a huge part of your life over the past year or two, and also, really delves into so many connections, familial, mentorship relationships, and this collaboration with the land. I think it's so kind of wonderful and profound that you need the rain, the soil, and the sunlight to grow a garden, and then collaborating with the sun to make your cyanotype cameraless photographs. Really, I feel like everything in this exhibition is so wonderfully tied together, and with such a generosity of spirit to extend this network of understanding even to the elements.
Thank you.
And sorry, what did you say, Katherine? You had a quote to sort of start your talk. The prairie wind is queer AF.
Yeah, as in Morgan. Yeah. Do you want me to read it again?
It's so inspiring. And can you what is the name of the author?
Yaz, I can type it.
Okay.
Yeah, Yaz M. Morgan.
Gotcha.
So the work is from a book called Metis, and the section is called The Prairie Wind is Gay AF. The prairie wind propels the queer body forward in a way shared among queer kin who perpetually followed those sparkling lights on the landscape, that queer lust for the city, that home in the horizon, and that desire for queer possibility.
Yaz Morgan, Katherine Boyer. Thank you. I know, Katherine, you are you've given us so much. So I think maybe this would be a good point for us to wrap up this recording of your artist-led tour. And I guess I will just invite everyone, if you have any thank yous or any additional comments, to please make them now.
I'll just say thank you quickly, Katherine, as well, participating in this and sharing with us, in addition to the exhibition, but with Storytellers. I think that, or I look forward to our discussion coming up called Reinvention with Katherine Boyer, which is coming up on the 20th, I believe. Cut this out if it's not the case.
Yeah.
But I'm excited to have that space too, to continue to talk and look at these concepts and how they're shared with others and potentially youth. I think that'll be such an exciting time, and thanking you in advance for that. As well as just laughing one more time to say that you purchasing and planting your own wild roses is such a Metis thing to do. I think that's so funny.
Yeah, it's such a funny thing.
But it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm also really looking forward to that, because I think so much about tradition, that I think the way I think about it is different than the way other people think about it, or maybe there are other people that think about it the same way.
Mhm.
Yeah, but that tradition is something that is this core that so many things can rotate around. And so yeah, I'm super excited to have that conversation and hang out more.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm also excited for this conversation. Is it just for youth who register, Holly?
It will be available on with an Eventbrite link, and it is at a capacity of 15. So there have been links for some youth to attend. I think it'll be a little bit of a mix of ages, but yeah, so.
Sounds incredible. Well, I want to thank everyone then for joining us virtually today. Katherine, again, thank you for sharing your work, your stories, your knowledge. Holly, thank you for working with the Art Gallery of Regina. Brandy, thank you for your simultaneous ASL interpretation. And you can see Katherine's exhibition that she just walked us through if you want to see it in person at the Art Gallery of Regina, 2420 Elphinstone Street.